Party's been winning support from both the Conservatives and Labour, of course, but will that translate at the ballot box? I'm joined now by UKIP's Deputy Chairman, Suzanne Evans. Very good morning to you. I want to start first of all with the issue of the housing crisis, because we've been talking this Labour policy and rent controls. But overall, I mean, UKIP, you feel part of the reason for the housing crisis is immigration, don't you?
It's part of the reason, and it's a very pressing reason. When you've got over the past, since 1997, you've got an additional 9 million people coming into the country. Of course, that's got to be part of the mix. And I think UKIP's the only political party that's actually being honest about the role that immigration plays. But of course, it's not just immigration. We are getting older as a nation. More of us are living on our own. So we have to do something about it. And UKIP, I think, has some very good policies. You go to our manifesto, you look at what we're saying. We're saying, keep our green fields green. Let's not build on the countryside, which unfortunately is too easy under the current planning law. So let's look at brownfield sites. So we're offering grants to developers to be able to bring brownfield site land up to scratch to be able to build on it, and we think we have a very realistic proposal for that.
Could also be people having a lot of housing themselves. You've got you've got an article here, you've seen it, haven't you, where you admit to having 2 1/3 homes. Do you rent any of them out, or what do you do with them? Why do you need them?
This is a ridiculous story. I would like to be a Member of Parliament. I am standing for a seat as Member of Parliament. I have a home in that constituency, which I'm very, very proud to have, and I have long-standing connections with that. And of course, I also have a home in London. So in a sense, I'm not doing anything very different from what most MPs do. As far as the third home is concerned,
you don't rent any of your properties out?
I rent out the third section that I have.
So what would you make
to,
as a landlord?
Well, at the moment, actually, to be absolutely honest, I'm making absolutely nothing. I'm making a loss of around about £200 a month because, in fact, the room that I rent out in that house it's empty at the moment.
OK, so you don't think this Labour policy is any good?
No, it's absolute nonsense. We actually looked, well, first of all, rent controls. All that happens is if landlords can't make enough money, they won't keep the property up to scratch. This has been tried in Cuba. It didn't work. It was an absolute disaster. As far as sort of longer tenancies are concerned, that's something that you can do anyway, and under existing legislation, you can roll things on. We looked actually in UKIP about possibly bringing in a medium hold tenancy, but our lawyers said, look, this is going to be extremely difficult to legislate for, leave well alone. But it's a very populist idea that Ed Miliband has decided, well, never mind the complications, we're going to promise it anyway.
Well, a lot of populist ideas around during an election campaign, aren't there? What about this latest poll that says that the Conservative message about the SNP and Labour in any form of potential alliance is actually appealing to as many as 40%, well, a bit below that, of potential UKIP voters? It's working, isn't it?
We could spin the story around the other way, can't we, and say, well, 6 out of 10 UKIP voters are absolutely determined, even if perhaps they live in seats where they don't think UKIP can get a majority, that they're still going to carry on voting UKIP.
But isn't Mr Cameron right in the core accusation that Labour and the SNP together would obviously give you no referendum and move Britain to the left?
Well, first of all, I don't believe for a moment that David Cameron is going to give us a referendum anyway. He's promised a referendum in the past and has actually reneged on his promises. It's interesting, you interviewed him earlier. I watched that interview with great interest. He talked about some of the rubbish that comes out of his mouth during an election campaign. He said in that interview that the Conservatives were the only party that were going to lower taxes. All the others wanted to raise taxes. That's clearly not true. UKIP is committed to lowering taxes. He also said that Conservatives were the only party that was standing a candidate in every part of the UK. Again, that's not true, and in fact UKIP already has representatives across the United Kingdom. So Mr Cameron, I think, needs to make a new definition of what is truth and what isn't.
Well, you said that you don't, we just heard your views on Mr Cameron, and that you don't trust him to deliver a referendum. What about Boris Johnson? If he is elected, and if something happens with the Conservative leadership, is that someone that UKIP would like to deal with over Mr Cameron?
I don't think. There's been far too much speculation about what's going to happen after the general election. The fact is, none of us knows. And just to go back to the survey that you talked about.
Well, we know that it's important who leads the Conservative Party, because we know your leader has said that Mr Cameron is one of his big problems. If Mr Johnson were leading the Conservatives, would that make a difference?
I actually don't know what Nigel's views are on Boris Johnson, so I'm certainly not going to sit here and try and guess and pretend them. I think Boris has made a very interesting Mayor of London. I do not think he is PM material at all, personally.
And well, we're talking leadership, and we're talking about Mr Farage, and he's been talking about his health. He's also been talking explicitly that if he doesn't manage to win a seat in the House of Commons, he'll stand down as leader of UKIP. You were the face of UKIP at the manifesto launch, and everyone said an impressive job you did. It's something that you would have to go for, isn't it?
Well, I don't think I'm going to have to go for it because Nigel is going to win his seat in Thanet South. You know, he's 9 points ahead in the polls, and interestingly, done by the same company that the Mail on Sunday has done. So I think he's streets ahead, and the Conservatives might want to play it down. Labour might want to talk him down. But the fact is, in fact, I gather even the Labour and the Conservative candidate have been photographed together trying to oppose UKIP. So if we're talking about grand coalitions,
just on your own
maybe
ambitions, and you know, you want to serve UKIP.
Yes,
if they wanted you, and Mr Farage for other reasons then says perhaps for health reasons, then I don't want to lead UKIP, you would throw your hat in the ring.
His health is fine. His health is absolutely fine. And while Nigel is leader, he has my 100% support. He's a great leader. Look what he's done for this party over 22 years. You know, battered, bruised, physically, verbally, in all manner of ways. He is the man for the job, and I can't wait to see him in Parliament. He's ripped them apart in the European Parliament. Imagine that man in
But if he says, look, Suzanne, I'm standing down, I want you to carry on the mantle.
Well, if he said that to me, then of course I would. Okay. Yes, but he's not. He's he's going to win, and I cannot wait to see him in the House of Commons. He will really shake things up. It's a very exciting prospect.
All right, Suzanne Evans, thank you very much indeed, Deputy Chairman of UKIP there. Now, coming up after the break.